Sub-zero temperatures!
Sub-Zero win.
Hey, so I was super keen to see Mortal Kombat! But the thing about Mortal Kombat is that it is a silly game about differently coloured ninjas punching each other. It's a bit of a silly thing, you know what I mean? So, could a movie exactly be translated super well? Well, yeah, I think, it was good, it was fun, I had a good time with it and everything. I did think that it kind of disappointed me a little bit, if I'm being honest, but I think that I went in with too high of expectations. Don't expect pure artistry, don't expect, cinema. Like, this is pure popcorn flick fun, and that's pretty much all it needs to be. When you're going into you should really expect that kind of thing. And it was good for the most part. I thought there were definitely issues, and I will get into them, but first, we need to say, did I find to be toasty? Or did it more so just test my might and or patience? Well, keep watching, I'll tell you in a sec, alright? Okay, so the first thing that everybody wants to know about is the character of Cole Young. Who is he? What the hell is he doing here? Why? Why is he here? And with that, I have to say, I don't know, because I thought he was kind of a waste of time, to be honest. Now, look, there was nothing wrong with the actor, there was nothing even wrong with the character himself, to be honest. He was likable enough and, just kind of the heroic guy that we can get behind. He was fine. But the problem with the character is where he takes us, how he affects the pacing of the film. And that kind of bothered the hell out of me, if I'm being honest, because instead of being dropped right into like the Netherrealm and the Mortal Kombat universe and all that stuff, instead of that, we're introduced to just this normal guy who's like in an MMA fight and all this kind of stuff, and he's just your standard straight guy who then goes on to be used as a vehicle to introduce us to the more wacky stuff of this universe. And I thought that was unnecessary. With geek culture where it's at the moment, this just felt a bit outdated. It felt like 2007 Transformers or something, where, it feels like it needs to have the character of the Shia LaBeouf type guy introduce us to all of this different stuff, and I just didn't think that we absolutely needed that. I thought that the fans would have appreciated just jumping right into the characters that we all know and love, and the people who aren't that familiar with the characters could probably catch up. It's not that complicated. It's, they need to punch each other. That's it, man. Like, it's not that hard. So I did think in the end that Cole Young was kind of just a waste of time. They built him up to be this big hero and everything, and he was fine, but we've already got that in Liu Kang and all the other characters that we already know. So I didn't really get the inclusion apart from feeling like it had to introduce us to this stuff in a more standard way, so it didn't scare off casual fans and all this stuff. And I thought that was just a little bit disappointing, and it kind of showed the film's insecurity, like it wasn't confident enough to just jump right into the characters. With that being said, when it did get to the characters and all the nerdy stuff that we do know from the games and everything, this movie went off pretty hard. Like, it was pretty cool. I couldn't help but to geek out at the fan servicey shit, like this particular brutal fatality by the hands of Kung Lao at one point, and just all of the obscurish characters that were there and stuff that I was surprised to see with some of them anyway. And like, it definitely came from a place of love. This is definitely from the fans. You can tell that like the guys behind this were fans of the game. There was a lot of inspiration there, and you could feel it. Like, it was fun, and it didn't feel like it was just kind of cash grab. It did feel like it was trying to be a good film. That being said, the pacing was just super off. Like I was saying with Cole Young, but not just him. Like, a lot of this film felt like it was really rushed. It felt like it had too much to do. It had to jump to one thing, jump to another. It had to have characters fight because this is Mortal Kombat and you need to have characters fight. But like, there was just too much to do, but also not enough, because it wasn't that complex, if that makes sense. It was kind of the worst of both worlds, to be honest. That being said, I liked this. I swear I did like this. And it was probably the best that this Mortal Kombat film probably could have been for what it was. Like, I don't want to be too hard on this movie because, again, it's a Mortal Kombat film. You shouldn't expect too much in terms of character development and all that stuff, at least not in an hour 50 film. And I did have a really fun time with it. The action is super, super well done. Like, the fight scenes in this are awesome. I really enjoyed them. And seeing Liu Kang and Kung Lao fight together, that was just something that had my 10-year-old self just like screaming inside my mind in excitement. Like, that's just, they were my video game heroes for a while back there. So that was awesome. And all of the characters are portrayed pretty well. Sonya Blade is, you know, solid. Jax he's okay, but he's kind of wasted, if I'm being honest. Same goes for Scorpion, who is awesome when he's there, but he's not there a whole lot. And that's just because of the limitations of the runtime of this film. I do feel like with the pacing, with everything feeling a bit rushed, I feel like this should have been a TV show. I think this could have been like a 10-episode season instead of, yeah, just one feature-long film. Like, maybe they could have done a thing like Game of Thrones, where it's this big epic thing where we're spanning across the universe with different characters and seeing where they're at that moment. And maybe each episode could be primarily about one character, like Scorpion gets his own episode, and, you know, so on and so on. I feel like that could really work with the deep lore of all these characters. We could actually learn about them a hell of a lot more and actually begin to care about them. Whereas in this film, like, you know, it's fun, but it's definitely nothing deep. It's just your popcorn fun shit like that. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I don't know what more people would expect from Mortal Kombat. I suppose it delivered on what it promised, but I just feel like it could be so much more with a bit of a different direction. I feel like it could be awesome. Awesomer. Anyway, with that being said, speaking about the action and all this stuff, this movie is violent, and I was excited to see this movie because it is rated R. In Australia, by the way, this isn't your little American R rating, which pretty much anything can seem to get. Like, I looked it up earlier, and A Good Day to Die Hard is rated R in America, apparently. Like, that's rated M here. That's 2 down. Yeah, so the R rating is pretty much exclusively reserved for, like, hardcore horror and all that kind of stuff. Your Saws, your Hostels, I don't know, stuff like that. So it was pretty exciting to see like a nerd film like this and an action film get an R rating. It's pretty rare here. With that being said, and maybe I'm just a sadistic bastard who's been desensitized to violence, I thought it could have been more violent. I thought that this could have passed off for being MA, if I'm being honest. Apart from a few particularly brutal fatalities, like that Kung Lao one, like I said, I felt like most of the basic fighting and all that stuff, this could have passed off for an MA film, if you ask me. But oh well, I'm well over 18, and who cares? I was excited to see an R-rated action film, and I did for the most part get it. Like, there was some definitely brutal scenes in this, and that's fun to see. That's what you want from Mortal Kombat, you know what I mean? Another issue that I had with this film was that a lot of it felt kind of artificial in a way. And I think that this was largely due to a very clear lack of extras going around in the background. There were no background characters, so it felt like there were just these actors standing, you know, on a set in their silly costumes, and they were gonna fight and everything. And it didn't feel particularly real because of that. It didn't really feel like there was an urgency where, like, our heroes had to save all of Earth realm or whatever. Like, more so, it kind of just felt like there were like 10 dudes standing around fighting each other. Like it was a pub fight or something. Like, but then again, there's kind of, maybe there's something to that. Maybe it was intentional, because there's kind of a campiness to that, and I kind of enjoyed it. That being said, it wasn't too over the top and campy in that kind of way. There was a lot to take seriously here. The character of Scorpion was very well done, I thought, when he was there. Sub-Zero was definitely a believable character in terms of him being a badass. I believed he was this undefeatable character.
No one beats Sub-Zero.
Another thing that was kind of annoying about this film, but only specifically to me and only specifically to the one screening that I was in, was that the character of Kano, okay, he's an Australian guy, like me. And he talks somewhat like me, I suppose, but definitely like other people that I've known in my life. It's familiar in a way. Obviously, he's very exaggerated. He's a very disgusting character. Like, he's just an asshole, really. But he's fun. He's humorous to an extent. With that being said, when I was watching this film in the cinema that I was watching it in, my audience would laugh at every single line that he said. Every single one. If he said fucking anything, roarous laughter. Just They couldn't contain themselves. Like, for scenes that weren't even supposed to be funny, at least in the way I interpreted them to be, my entire audience was just laughing at every single thing he said. If he just said anything that was slightly Australian, if he said fuck, laughter. Laughter was assured. Just roarous laughter. Just every single line that he said, every single time he opened his mouth. If he spoke a word, my audience, my cinema was just laughing, drowning out the dialogue that was to follow anything that he said. And I'm like, seriously? Like, yes, he's mildly entertaining. He's kind of funny. I enjoy him for the most part. He's an entertaining character. I like him. But like every single time he says anything, it's not that funny, man. It's not that funny. My specific audience, calm down, okay? I'm sure being in Australia, presumably you've heard an Australian speak before, and he kind of speaks like us. So like, settle down, man. But then again, there is like this fun little gimmicky thing to the familiarity of an Australian in this kind of film speaking. And that was kind of fun. I did kind of enjoy that myself. It just wasn't like hilarious like my audience was making it out to be, I felt like. But anyway, moving on. So yeah, I think that this was probably the best video game movie that there is. That might not be saying that much, but I mean, if that's what you want, you got it here. So while I wouldn't say that this was a flawless victory, I thought it was fun and I enjoyed it. I just hope that next time in the sequel, which I assume there will be one, I think there will be, if this film does well anyway, and I think it will, I hope that next time in that sequel, the world feels a little bit more believable, a bit grander, you know what I mean? But I guess we'll just have to see how that goes. And so yeah, that's pretty much it. I just want to say one more thing, but this is kind of a spoiler, so I'll just leave it for the very end. And I'll put my logo up here for a second, just to give you a chance to get on out of here if you're in the middle of doing something else. And you need 10-20 seconds to click off the video before I spoil something. There's your warning, spoilers coming up soon. Alright, so this is a Mortal Kombat movie that doesn't contain, it's not about the Mortal Kombat tournament. There's no tournament in this movie. And look, you don't absolutely need the tournament, I guess, as long as you have the characters and you have the fighting, it feels enough like a Mortal Kombat movie. You know, it's in their universe and everything. I get that, but they were like building up towards the tournament. Cole Young was training up to be in the tournament and to fight for Earthrealm and all this stuff. And then they never get to that. They just keep fighting outside of the tournament. Fight in the tournament, man! I was looking forward to the Mortal Kombat tournament in my Mortal Kombat movie. So that was kind of annoying. I wanted the Mortal Kombat tournament. Yeah. And that's all. Okay, see ya. On, do the things.